Hi, this is the African American Atheist, and one of the quick topics that I want to jump right into that's typically strayed away from a rational approach, but yet always in the media and religious discussions from an irrational approach, is the concept of homosexuality and whether it is natural or what we would define as natural, right? So I guess the most honest and reasonable point to begin with is the relatedness of all species due to evolution. So on this channel, I'm giving you a warning, right? You're always going to hear evolution a lot because ultimately everything can be distilled down to evolution because quite frankly, we're all living creatures on a planet that replicate via genetics and DNA. So everything's interconnected. Nothing will ever make sense. Any kind of scientific or biological discussion will never make sense unless it's looked at through that sort of lens. And that's the hard truth that needs to be touted a little bit more from my opinion and point of view. So we can begin this topic of homosexuality and whether it is natural with the framework that we're all mammals, right? So that's relevant foundationally for us that we're all mammals, humans included. We share the majority of our genetic code and DNA with other creatures. We obviously know this already. This is verifiable, right? So, for example, humans share approximately 98% of their genetic code with the bonobo ape. For those that do not know, the bonobo ape is an intelligent primate, sometimes called the pygmy chimpanzee, I believe. But what's relevant purely from a conceptual level to this discussion is that the bonobo has highly documented incidences of male-on-male sexuality and female-on-female sexuality. So we can take a pause purely on that alone. But from an honest and rational approach, one must, point out that the bonobo does not choose to display this homosexual behavior. It's simply part of the natural experience and culture of being a bonobo ape. It's natural to their makeup, so to speak. And this is a fellow primate with whom we share 98% of our genetic code. So let's now apply some logic, right? So if we share 98% of the same genetic code as the bonobo, and the bonobo has a natural, biological, and cultural makeup that includes homosexuality, then it's almost a no-brainer that it's only being honest and reasonable to assert and expect, I guess I would say, incidences of homosexuality within the natural human experience. Because 98% of the underlying genetic instructions that ultimately govern our behavior, our interactions, our development, etc., are already there embedded in our DNA. And it's unreasonable to think that the homosexuality in the bonobo is attributed to the other 10 or 11% difference in the genomes. I can almost start to hear, a religionist try to argue that point, but that would be unreasonable, right? The bottom line is that, with respect to our DNA, we share our DNA with the chimpanzee, the pygmy chimpanzee, that has natural incidences of homosexuality, where homosexuality is a natural and normal part of the biology and of the culture of being a bonobo chimpanzee or pygmy chimpanzee, however you want to refer to these creatures. So let's take it even further. Similarly, humans share approximately 52% of their genetic code with the whiptail lizard. So this is very relevant because the whiptail lizard is primarily an asexual species with female-on-female coupling, what we would describe as a lesbian, so to speak. So the simple fact that we share approximately 52% of our genetic code and DNA with an asexual homosexual lizard is logic enough to apply reason and at the very least expect for there to be some incidences of homosexuality expressed in the human experience. Because 52% of the underlying genetic instructions that ultimately govern our behavior, our interactions, our development, etc., are already there embedded within our DNA. So purely on a conceptual level, homosexuality should be expected as part of the natural experience of humanity. Now, I'm talking on a conceptual level. I'm not digging into the nitty-gritty biological details because it's honestly not relevant. If we can get past the higher conceptual level of understanding of homosexuality as being a natural thing, meaning it's part of the makeup of humanity, that's a positive win right there in our critical thinking and understanding, and that's what needs to occur. And it doesn't stop there, right? This can be taken even further. Our sexual conduct and desires, a lot of these things are largely controlled by a delicate balance involving interactions of various hormones, and all those things occur subconscious to us. So on a conceptual level, it's not unreasonable to expect that if an individual's genetic makeup involves some sort of shift in hormonal interaction, that it could manifest itself in a tendency toward homosexual experiences and affinities towards homosexual encounters. Now, I'm not a geneticist, I'm talking on a conceptual level to get the understanding out there as a starting point of homosexuality being a natural part of the human makeup. But all of this is still verifiable in lab settings with mice, rats, cats, monkeys, etc., right? So the fundamental point is that one could competently argue, and people should competently argue, on the side of homosexuality being a natural part of the human experience, and that it has always been a natural part of the human experience, because the fundamental instructions in our genetic code and DNA that govern these types of things has been part of us for, well over thousands of years. And that's evidenced by the large amount of DNA that we share with the bonobo chimpanzee. If it wasn't with us for that long, we wouldn't share 98% of our genetic instructions with the bonobo chimpanzee that has highly documented incidences of homosexuality. It's pretty much that simple and a case closed, no-brainer, from my point of view. And quite honestly, the atheist or anyone just using common sense or a bit of logic with appreciation of biology, can understand that also. So, this issue is very important, and it makes it seem as if society at large needs a re-education on these concepts, but that only begs the question on whether we ever got a first education on these kind of concepts, through that sort of lens. And we all know the answer is really no. We didn't get that, and that's the problem. So this is the African American Atheist, just touching on the topic real quick. We're going to keep this kind of content coming, so please feel free to like, share, subscribe, and buckle up, because we're going to have some fun discussions. See you in the next video.